11 modern things that existed long before us. It's a little-known fact, but some modern inventions actually appeared centuries or even millennia ago. Claiming that all ancient people were primitive is a blatant injustice. Did our ancestors have smartphones? How accurate were their predictions about robots? We found 11 phenomena that had emerged much earlier than we originally thought. And as a bonus, we'll tell you when the modern versions came along. 11. Prosthetics and plastic surgery, about 3000 BC. The first attempts to correct appearance flaws date back to the earliest times, and they were pretty successful. The earliest known example is an Egyptian prosthetic toe that was not just aesthetic, but also was functional. Another example is from ancient India, as far back as 800 BC. They could adjust nose shape using the skin from the forehead or cheeks. The first time plastic surgery was applied in the modern times was right after the Great War in 1917. The aim of it was to help soldiers that sustained terrible facial injuries. 10. Sewage system, about 2600 BC. The earliest sewage facilities belonged to the Indus Valley civilization in Mohenjo-Daro, one of their largest settlements. Archaeologists found public toilets and a city sewer system. Sewage was also known in ancient Babylon, some Chinese cities, and in Rome, where it was represented by a colossal engineering project called Cloaca Maxima, greatest sewer that has survived to this day. For the longest time, the Roman knowledge was ignored. Only around the middle of the 19th century, when cities grew bigger and the health risk from poor sewage systems became apparent, some of the ancient technologies were used again. 9. Battery, about 2500 BC. The Baghdad battery is a ceramic pot containing a copper tube with an iron rod inside. Replicas of this battery are indeed capable of creating some voltage. Perhaps the ancient Babylonians knew the method of galvanization for which these containers were used, although skeptics argue that they only served to store scrolls. One of the first batteries that worked as designed was the voltaic pile, created by an Italian scientist, Alessandro Volta. This battery could continuously produce an electric current. 8. Flamethrower, 424 BC. The prototype of this formidable weapon was used in the Battle of Delium. The ancient fire thrower, or Greek fire, was a copper tube used to project a combustible liquid mixture. Compressed air or large bellows served as a buoyancy force. These weapons were pretty big and hard to move. For centuries it was used from time to time in various naval battles, but due to the recipe being a secret, these uses were extremely rare. In the modern age, flamethrowers were reinvented in Germany not long before the Great War. The main upgrade to the Greek fire technology was the transition to smaller-sized weapons suited for man-held usage. 7. Alarm clock, about 400 BC. The Greek philosopher Plato used a water clock that could emit a sound signal to remind him that it was time to begin his lectures. Water-powered alarms were further developed in ancient Rome and the Middle East. Mechanical striking clocks that were able to chime at a certain time of the day first appeared in China in the 8th century AD and made their way to Europe by the 14th century. Interestingly enough, unlike many other technologies on the list, alarm clocks didn't disappear after they were invented. For some time, most of them became public, working atop of clock towers. But around the 15th century, personal alarm clocks made their comeback. 6. Robots, 323 BC. The prototypes of modern robots were female figures mounted on the lighthouse on the island of Pharos. At regular time intervals, they turned on and struck the bells. At night, they made loud trumpeting sounds, warning seafarers of the proximity of the shore. Much later, in the 17th and 18th centuries, machines called automatons gained popularity in Western Europe. They were clockwork mechanisms made to look like humans or animals and capable of performing various actions. Automatons were a pretty popular entertainment for the rich, but they weren't seen as something useful. Most people agreed that the term robotics, and with it the whole scientific approach to robots, was created by the famous sci-fi author Isaac Asimov in 1942 when he formulated the 3 laws of robotics. 5. Automatic doors, the 1st century AD. Automatic temple doors were already known in ancient Greece. Back then they were run by Hero's Aeolipile, the oldest prototype of the steam engine. The fire was built on the altar, under which pipes carrying water were concealed. The steam activated a system of blocks connected to the doors. This created an illusion of magic which was only to the priest's benefit. Surprisingly, there's not much information about any sorts of automatic doors until their modern-day version was reinvented in the middle of the 20th century. 4. Vending machine, the 1st century AD. In our time, vending machines can sell anything imaginable, from toys to freshly baked pizza. Back in the day, you could only buy holy water for washing your hands in temples from them. After depositing a coin into the device, it would set in motion a mechanism that issued a portion of water to the customer. Modern-day vending machines were created in the 1880s and were not designed to sell snacks or soda. What they did was automated selling of postcards and envelopes at post offices. 3. Odometer, also the 1st century AD. An instrument for measuring the distance traveled by a vehicle, or odometer, was probably invented by Archimedes of Syracuse. His odometer looked like a small set of wheels with numbers on them that showed the length of the distance traveled as the vehicle moved. Independently of Archimedes, a similar device was invented by the Chinese philosopher and scholar Zhang Heng. Throughout history, the need to measure distances rarely went away, and so they've been regularly used and improved since the 17th century. They became standard equipment for cars in 1925. 2. Seismoscope, 132 AD. Another invention of Zhang Heng is a seismoscope that could react to an upcoming earthquake. It was a rather peculiar but precise construction. A bronze ball was projected from one of 8 tubes shaped as dragon heads, and it fell into the mouth of a corresponding metal toad that sat under them, indicating the direction where the shocks were coming from. What these seismoscopes didn't show was the strength of the earthquake. In 1935, American seismologist Charles Richter developed a scale to define the magnitude of an earthquake. We know it as the Richter scale. 1. Sunglasses, the 10th century. It is a common belief that sunglasses were invented by the Inuit who had to protect their eyes from snow blindness. Their sunglasses didn't have actual glass. They were walrus ivory goggles with narrow slits. The first sunglasses with glass, smoky quartz actually, appeared later in 12th century China. They were used to hide the wearer's facial expression rather than as protection against sunlight. Funny enough, but even at the beginning of the last century, sunglasses still weren't used mainly as protection from the sun. Some sources suggest that they were popular among movie stars. It was easier to avoid fan recognition that way. Sunglasses were first mass-produced only in 1929 by Sam Foster. He discovered that the beachgoers of the USA would gladly buy his product to protect their eyes from the sun. Also, we've prepared 2 amazing bonuses. Bonus 1. Mr. Pynchon and the Settling of Springfield, a 1933 painting by the Italian-American artist Umberto Romano depicts quite what the title says. Mr. Pynchon, founder of the town, stands in the center of the scene and appears to be giving out various town management orders. What makes the painting curious is a Native American man sitting in the foreground and holding a rectangular object that is pretty similar to a modern smartphone. It is probably just a small mirror, but wouldn't life be more fun if we found out iPhones are not as innovative as they're thought to be? Bonus number 2. Another enigma that haunts the minds of conspiracy fans. The facade of the 300-year-old new cathedral of Salamanca, Spain, is adorned with an astronaut sculpture. Did our ancestors fly into space or meet aliens in spacesuits? In this case, the truth is even simpler. The figure of the astronaut was added during the restoration of the cathedral in 1992. So the whole thing's just someone's joke, as is another figure representing a faun with an ice cream in his hand. Don't forget to click subscribe and hit the like button below the video to join us on the bright side of life.